When the Department of Homeland Security tweets, "Remigrate," a congressman's office displays a swastika patterned flag, and rising, quote, young Republican leaders joke about Hitler in private chats. The question is, are we seeing fringe extremism or the honest inheritance of a party that stopped pretending to be ashamed of white supremacy? Hey, thanks for coming back to the podcast. This is episode 3, and we are going to talk about white supremacy today. I've titled this podcast Sounds About White. But before we jump into the topic today, I do want to give a huge shout out to everybody who participated yesterday, or if you're watching this later, Saturday, October 18th, in the No Kings protest. Americans hit the streets in an overwhelmingly peaceful nationwide demonstration, sending a clear and unified message to this administration: no thrones, no crowns, no kings. We're not interested in it. Now, organizers estimated that there was nearly 7 million people who participated in about 2,700 different organized protests across the United States of America. And word is that there were other protests around the world, in quite a few places: Madrid, Spain, Dublin, Ireland, quite a few other places. You can go look at those numbers. But what a testament to what it looks like to actually be a patriot, to use your voice to speak against this administration's horrific policies and ideologies. Good job. Well done. Keep being loud. Keep dissenting. Keep on protesting. It works. Matter of fact, Ezra, I want to say Levin, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct. Ezra Levin, who's the co-founder Indivisible, they're the ones who put together the No Kings protest. He said this: "There is no greater threat to an authoritarian regime than patriotic people power." And I believe that to be true. So well done, everybody, for that. Now, today's topic, I want to pose the idea that white supremacy is not a glitch in the modern GOP, it is a feature. Now, multiple stories came out this week. And let me be clear and honest here about this podcast. I'm trying to pick a couple of things that I find interesting that I think we should talk about. There are so many things we could be talking about from what happened this week. Um, it's unbelievable the amount of things that we could be discussing that are so far, again, beyond the pale, that it's hard for us to even comprehend that this is where we are today. So I've got to pick a few. Today we're talking about white supremacy. And you may have heard this story. It was sent to me by a couple of people. Thank you to those who send me links. If you have something you would like me to talk about in the podcast, shoot it over to me. I had a few friends send me the link to the Politico article, that's a tongue twister, about the Young Republicans chat leak. Now, if you didn't know, Politico broke the story this last week of a 2,900 page Telegram chat leak among state and national, quote, young Republican leaders. Now, I am saying, quote, young Republican leaders for a reason, and we'll get to that reason here in a few moments. But this chat group, this 2,900 page Telegram chat group, was filled with vile and disgusting content that included racism. It included anti-Semitism. It included misogynistic messaging. It included very violent content. So I'm not sharing all the quotes here. I am going to link the article below because you can go read the article. But I mean, we're talking about quotes of "I love Hitler," quotes of "rape is epic," um, gas chamber jokes, the N word being used multiple times, queer slurs being used multiple times, and so on and so on and so on. I encourage you read the article. It's linked below. And I do want to say there have been some consequences for the folks that were revealed, and I'm not going to name their names here. Go read them in the article. I'm not giving them the time of the day, and it's not necessarily the exact point that I'm trying to make here about the particulars of each person. There have been some consequences for these folks. Some of them have lost their jobs. There has been some people who spoke out against it, but the general response, I want to talk about the general GOP response to this whole thing. A, the president has been dead silent. There have been no official remarks or comments made about this particular article, this leak of these Telegram chats. So dead silence from the president, not surprised. And then the general tone or idea that is coming across, and let me, I'm going to share it with you here. But before I talk about the tone, let me. There's a maxim that comes to my mind when I'm thinking about this, and that maxim is this: what the master does in moderation, the student does in excess. You've maybe heard that before. What the master does in moderation, the student does in excess. It's this idea of what leaders normalize, the followers of those leaders will radicalize those things. So I'm kind of trying to draw a little bit of a thread, a through line on some of these stories today about white supremacy and the GOP, and color me as among the people who are not surprised by this chat group that was leaked of how vile and disgusting it is. It is not a bug. It is a feature. So here was JD Vance's response on the Charlie Kirk show, nonetheless. There's still a podcast called the Charlie Kirk Show podcast. His response to this leaked chat group from Telegram. Here's what he said: kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. I don't want us to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke ruins their life. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, JD Vance on the Charlie Kirk show. What are you saying? Kids do stupid things? I'm sorry. You said young boys tell edgy jokes and offensive jokes. Now, I have raised two sons myself. They are now 30 and 27 years old, about the same age as these people who are in these Telegram joke or Telegram chats. These quote unquote, and here's why I'm using the quotes, these quote unquote young Republicans ranged from the ages of 24 to 35 years old. These are not kids. Let me say that again. These are not kids. These are grown ass adults. I have raised sons that are this age range. They are not kids. They are not young boys who tell edgy jokes. They are grown ass men and adults who have to take responsibility for their words and their actions and their deeds. And I find it very, very telling that JD Vance would frame this story this way. He could have very easily just come out and said, I saw it. I think that that language is appalling. I think that there should be consequences. It has no place in the discourse of America whatsoever. We should not be using any sort of violent rhetoric. Anti-Semitism is not okay, which, by the way, remember, when they're going after the universities, they're claiming because someone says free Palestine that that person is anti-Semitic. Meanwhile, they're making excuses for their own people, their own pipeline, their own raised children, if you will, in the Republican Party, claiming, quote, I love Hitler, and making jokes about turning on the gas chambers. These are not kids. These are adults who know full well what they are saying, what they are doing, and feel emboldened as if they have permission to do it because of their leaders, leaders like you, JD Vance. And listen, this is the same JD Vance and the same GOP trying to call these 24 to 35-year-olds kids that will fight for maximum penalties against black and brown teens who are charged with some sort of misdemeanor, and try to charge them as adults who do something that maybe is not a good thing, that maybe is a bad decision. And instead of seeing them as kids who are making a poor decision and need their lives to be rerouted, what JD Vance and the GOP fight for is for the maximum penalties against them, that they be charged as adults, but not the same for his own GOP children who are 24 to 35-year-olds out here spewing this disgusting, vile, hate filled rhetoric. And now all of a sudden, a 24-year-old, a 26-year-old, a 35-year-old representative, leader in the Republican Party, a 35-year-old is a kid, is a boy. And also, the irony is not I'm not missing the irony in this situation here, where this same movement that criminalized criticism or even quoting Charlie Kirk after his death is excusing pro Hitler messages as jokes from a Charlie Kirk podcast platform. The very people who tried to cancel and ruin the lives of people who just simply quoted Charlie Kirk's own words are now claiming that these sort of things, these sort of pro Hitler messages, are just jokes. Now, here's the thing, we're not just talking about the private chats here. What we're talking about is this is a pipeline into the halls of power and authority for the GOP. They are raising white supremacist ideologues. Point, full stop. Now, in this same week, we had another story broke by Politico. Politico seems to be doing really good work out here these days. Broke by Politico. And that was the story of an altered American flag that was displayed in Utah Republican Representative Dave Taylor's office. Now, again, we're not just talking about private chats. White supremacy is not a bug. It is a feature. It's not just some glitch. It's not just some random event that happened. This is a consistent through line with the GOP. So Politico broke the story that an altered American flag was displayed in Utah Republican Representative Dave Taylor's office. The flag, I don't know if you've seen it, I'm going to put a picture of it up here. The flag had its red and white stripes rearranged to form a swastika. And this was originally noticed during a virtual meeting with a David Taylor staffer. Now, of course, Taylor and all of his people came out and said, "Oh, this is a ruse. This is some sort of vandalism." And I'm like, "Is it though? Do you really expect us to believe that somebody just snuck in and pinned this little flag up on the wall of the cubicle of your staffer? That this was some act of violence? Is it though? Or is it actually just what you guys are breeding? Is it just what you are teaching? Is it just the ideology of the GOP?" It's not random. It's normalized rhetoric. It's normalized ideology of the GOP. Jason Staley, in his book, How Fascism Works, he said this: symbols are how ideology travels faster than policy. There's something about symbols being used and being prominently displayed that really has a profound impact on what's taking place where they may be displayed. So it's one thing to be happening in private chats, making claims of things that you think may not make it to the public. I'm not excusing that, but from there, now the pipeline leads it to where there is an emboldened nature or action of staffers. Again, we're talking about pipeline here. We're talking about who is the Republican Party raising up as the next generation of leaders. This would be one of those people displaying in their cubicle an American flag with the symbolism of a swastika, chats that say "I love Hitler" with racial slurs and queer slurs and celebrating rape. All of this is a part of this culture. None of us are surprised when you look at the leader of this movement, Donald Trump, and the vile life that he has lived. 34-time convicted felon Donald Trump, who has been accused on multiple occasions of sexual assault and rape, who is more than likely, I believe, in the Epstein files, covering up um, the Epstein files because he's in them. If that's what's going on at the top, what the master does in moderation, the students will do in excess. You would think we'd be done there, right? Private chats exposed, racist, anti Semitic, misogynistic, violent. Kid goes on, or staffer, look at me saying kid, staffer, grown ass adult staffer goes on to um, a, uh, a virtual meeting with a flag. It'd be like me having a flag right back here displaying the swastika in it. That's insane. Goes on to a meeting, a virtual meeting with the swastika flag. But that's not it. That's not it. This same week, on Tuesday, October 14th of this week, the official X handle of Homeland Security, the Department of Homeland Security, posted one word on their X, and that word was remigrate. Remigrate. Now, seems harmless maybe to many people. Like, okay, remigrate. Uh, Maybe they were trying to be cute. I think it's much more sinister than them trying to be cute. Because this term, and I think they know this. I think that they are aware of where this term comes from. I don't think that they could, you know, have an excuse of being ignorant to what was going on here. I think they knew what they were doing. I think they did it intentionally. But this term originates from European identitarian movements advocating for mass deportation of non white residents. Right. It's extremist vocabulary moving from the fringe to a federal agency. So we got the private chats moving into a public display on the wall of a staffer, and then moving into an actual post from an actual department of the government, moving from the fringe to the federal agencies. White supremacist language declared in an official communication of this administration. White supremacy is not a glitch, it's a feature. It's a feature of the modern GOP. It's something that we have to call out every single time that we see it, that we hear it, that we should recognize the through line of what is happening. That a mass part of what they are trying to do in their Project 2025 mission here is fueled by Christian white nationalism or white supremacy. Full stop. Now, let me leave you with this question. If a nation's teachers wink at hate and call it humor, how long before their students carve it into law? So that's what we're looking at here. That's what our future is looking at. We are getting a glimpse behind the curtains of the future of the GOP. We think the GOP is bad now with this administration. What this administration is doing is only emboldening the next generation who are proudly declaring themselves as hate mongers, as anti Semites, as lovers of Hitler, as white supremacists. And we must stand against it every chance we get. Again, white supremacy is not a glitch in the modern GOP, it is a feature. I'd love to know what you think about that. You could comment below. Leave me a comment. I've been replying to comments. Thank you for everybody. Even if you don't agree with me, thank you for commenting, because then we can have a discussion about what we are talking about and it helps the algorithm. With that being said, if you're new here, please make sure you like, please make sure you subscribe below. Again, leave a comment. If you want something to be talked about here on the show, drop it in the comments. Happy to look at those ideas. Share this. Maybe you know somebody who needs to hear it. Please share it with your friends and family. With that, we will see you on the next show.